Like, what if DB Sweeney, like, after that encounter had called...
I
what
invited that.
What
we
if
don't
he'd-
need to talk about DB Sweeney. Leave him in Canada.
What if his character from Fire in the Sky had called Art Bell, but they were like, it's not the day. It's like, dude, this just happened. Like,
Okay,
there's
I
a
get
scene.
what you're saying now.
There's a scene.
That would be terrible.
There's
You
a scene
have
in the
this
film.
thing has happened
There's
to
a
you,
scene
but
in the
no
film
one
where
wants
he's
to
like,
hear about it.
he's discovered like huddled and naked, and it's like he has one phone call to make, and it's like, dude, no, it's not Alien Day. You are shut down. Toe
Well,
pick.
then I think it's very unfortunate if you used your one phone call to call a radio program and not, not like the hospital, the police.
Whitley Strieber. Daddy needs a new pair of shoes. Let's roll. Snake Eyes. Is that good? I don't know anything about dice. Is Snake Eyes like... I don't know whether Snake Eyes is the best you can roll or the worst you can roll, honestly.
I don't know who's like a lot lizard in Las Vegas. What celebrity am I thinking of?
Do you know one? Do you have one on speed dial?
I have no one on speed dial. Nothing. It's
So
my phone is a ghost town.
So then along came Mary's personal details weren't something you've saved. Speaking of someone who
Oh my God.
would fit that description and could supply instantly the information we're looking for.
No one knows who that is.
And you know
No,
who that
the people
is.
who know who that is are not people that you want knowing who we are.
So let's just quickly, like an animal in the woods, cover our tracks. Like just let's back up, like, and try to put our feet into our tracks, like to get out of the thicket. We just...
I thought you meant like, covered up like a cat burying, poop and
or like
dump trucking over the...
or like William Shatner burying his wife. Yeah, Snake Eyes.
I don't know. Have Deaton's just entered the chat?
Snake Eyes are one of the...
Jump to a higher energy level.
If I were to guess, is a non-dice specialist.
Are there dice specialists? Or is that like a something that you can specify in Etsy?
No. I think
I know all about these dice. I've got a 3D printer and I know about dice.
if someone were to only specialize in dice, it would be pathetic. That's something that...
Well, only. I mean, it's just like a...
Well, let me save the
know.
comment I was going to make. Let me
It's
save
an
it, because
accessory.
you just leave it hanging like that. It sounds like I'm being just horrible and judgmental, but I have a bigger...
You are.
I have a bigger point I'm making. I'm not, and you're going to find that out very quickly.
Am I?
I think it's perfectly fine and not pathetic if it's a part and parcel of a wider specialization. Like, I know about cards, I know about dice, I know the rules of billiards or pool.
No. That's still bad.
Okay. But I think Snake Eyes is one of those low numbers that is special, just happens to be special, like an ace. Isn't an ace like, isn't it like 1? It corresponds to 1.
I don't know. And I thought about it. Tobey Maguire. I'm not Tobey Maguire.
Or, didn't he...
And I don't have him on speed dial.
A lot of them, like those 90s, like, teen stars, like DiCaprio, didn't a lot of them like hang out in Vegas?
Yes, that's who I was thinking of initially, but
Tobey Maguire tried Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck would smoke Tobey Maguire,
and then go get an obnoxious back tattoo.
I mean, he could literally roll Tobey Maguire across the floor in a carpet and pick him up and smoke him. Have you seen how jacked Ben Affleck is compared to Tobey Maguire?
He's muscularly huge. I don't know. I thought he had that alcoholic's body where everything's a bit riddled with the ET, whatever ET.
Yes, but he's
had
from
in
Boston.
The ditch.
In Boston, that just levels you up. Those are like PowerPoints.
But does it work anywhere
Remember in the
else?
first Spider-Man where Tobey Maguire puts on the glasses and suddenly he has these muscles. I guess, the spider bit him and he's suddenly muscle.
Wait, didn't he have to take the glasses off? Because
No.
his eyesight was also repaired.
The scene we're talking about was making 2 points. My eyes have been repaired and I'm muscular. Now, I'm saying that Ben Affleck at one point was so jacked, he would be the Hulk. He would be a shaved gorilla standing behind Maguire. Like, he couldn't fit in the mirror.
There have been I mean, not counting Lou Ferrigno. Am I saying
No
his
one
name
counts
correct?
Lou Ferrigno. Anywhere in the world currently, Lou Ferrigno is not currently being counted on any list.
Well, I'm not starting, but not counting him, obviously, but all of the other Hulks have not really been, I mean, they're obviously been to the gym quite a bit for those roles, but I mean, Edward Norton.
He's probably being
who am I
counted
thinking
in
of?
like long-term steroid use
No,
studies.
follow me with
Okay,
this.
sorry,
Okay.
it wasn't that good.
Edward Norton,
I'll drop
I mean,
it.
you just don't think of him as being jacked. And also the other Hulk from Ang Lee's Hulk,
The other
Eric
Hulk?
Bana.
You just almost forgot the name of Australia's greatest comedian, apparently.
Was he a Nugget? I can't remember if he was the star of Nugget or if it's someone else.
He was the star of Nugget.
One of the greatest films to ever come out of Australia. I'm sticking with that. There goes my year's supply of kitty litter.
Well,
but no,
those
guys weren't.
There's
you
a lot
don't
I
think
can
of them
say
as
about
being
Australia,
really
but you were
huge.
talking about Edward Norton and Eric Bana.
They're not huge. I mean, they're muscled, but not huge. Could Ben Affleck smoke them?
I think Eric.
Could he smoke all the superheroes? Which superheroes could he not smoke? Definitely. Who am I thinking of?
Okay, Brad Pitt was known for getting in really great shape for Troy, but to my
He
eyes,
looked like a hot dog about to explode in the microwave.
to my eyes, Eric Bana was even more muscularly huge. So if Ben Affleck can smoke Eric Bana in that state, then he could just smoke Brad Pitt like right after Eric
Was
Bana.
there something diminutive
Double up.
about Eric Bana, even at his height? There's just something a bit about him that just seems
like a character actor, not
recessed.
a star. Like
Yes,
retreating.
and does that affect his physique in anyone's the way people are viewing him?
Like someone who shies away from the spotlight.
Like he could be very muscularly huge, but you just don't see it because he's so reticent.
Okay, so
He sort of pulls in on himself.
I'm trying to triangulate all the points you're making.
He grasps the shadows as if he's pulling down the sky to tuck himself in.
We're talking
at
about
night.
his physique, which is real and it's measurable. But besides that, you're talking about his personality. And you're saying
Does that affect it?
You're saying his personality and the way he acts can make people not see things they would otherwise see. But can it also conversely make people think someone is more jacked than they are?
Yes. I mean, if one is true, the other must be.
Like, who's an example of someone who's just not that muscular, but has really pulled one over on the world? Like, the world holds them in the regard as being some sort of, like, Steve Reeves type.
Does it work for Robert Downey Jr.?
No one ever thought he was very muscular, period.
Okay, what were we going to talk about? We weren't going to talk about Ben Affleck's body the whole podcast.
Well, I don't know how we got started on that, but someone's body was being talked about.
I don't remember. I'm like a goldfish. Once I've turned around, I've forgotten everything that came before.
Mm-hmm. I was just thinking about Ben Affleck smoking Brad Pitt. Like lighting his golden hair on fire.
With a blowtorch. I don't know. That just gives me that Gribbsy Joker vibes.
Look, spoiler alert. This is the Halloween episode, and that's terrifying.
No. Think about
Ben Affleck is on a
Jared Leto.
rampage. He doesn't want to kill you. He wants to smoke you.
I don't know. Jared Leto's Joker gets a lot of beat downs, but I think he's a little scary. I think with a blowtorch he'd be terrifying.
I think Ben Affleck would say that's not worth smoking. That's like half a joint, like you find at the bottom of your pocket.
I don't know. Is Ben Affleck?
Like that's the joint. That's the joint you hand to a bum, like on a street corner. It's like, here, you have it. I'm too rich.
I
Smoking
don't know.
Brad Pitt later.
I'm not following you on this Ben He's just too vanilla. I don't see him really doing anything.
Isn't that why it's funny? You're talking about this someone you otherwise feel is quite plain, doing these outrageous acts, and the contrast is what makes it funny.
I don't know if it's enough.
You can just lay out that formula.
Isn't black and white. It's more like gray and peach.
You can lay out these comedy formulas, but either something works or it doesn't. I mean, if the formula can't make it work, so we should move on.
So ghosts are watching everybody, obviously, all the time. They're on another dimension, and they are always watching.
I don't think they were watching Quibi. I don't think even Ghost and people in Limbo were watching Quibi. Quibi was like the most advertised, least watched thing in the history of humanity.
It's like, it's, you know, it's one dim, one-dimensional.
Quibi's selling point was that it was short. They were like short videos, but Ghost have eternity. They have all the time in the world, and they didn't have time for Quibi. Yeah, for a lot of people, Ghost as a subject, it's like a laughing matter. It's like, oh, Ghost, this is funny.
What kind of laugh, though? Is it a nervous laugh?
It depends on the
person.
person.
Like a self-conscious laugh? On Reddit, the Humanoid Encounters subreddit, there are many stories of mothers talking about their babies just suddenly laughing out of nowhere at something, as if there's someone there. And they always assume that it is a grandparent who has passed away, or someone who used to live in the apartment that I think
that's a bad assumption. I think it's just that a small person like that is just
living in sort of a dreamlike fantasy.
That's
with
one
very
way of putting
poor
it. But,
eyesight.
Everything is new, and they're learning new things every day, and it's still not. Everything is a novelty. They just dust particles floating through the air are novelty to them. I don't think they're staring at.
Babies are extremely, extremely stupid.
Well, I think like a ghost would be horrifying to them, like an actual ghost.
Oh, but what if it's like it looks like a nice grandma, you know, and they're smiling. But where I was going with this,
ultimately, I can say yes or no, and that won't mean anything, because ultimately you can't confirm that.
What if in those situations it's Michael Jackson?
Do you want me to say yes, that's what they saw. Yes, they've seen that.
Do you think Michael Jackson would be horrified?
Would those be laughs or screams?
Does Michael Jackson look the way he wants to look after he's passed on, or does he look the same way that he looked in life?
I think he probably looks the way he looked in some of those paintings he commissioned of himself.
Yes, because that would be a great... I mean, that would really make a big difference in how the baby saw him. Mm-hmm. Whether it was a horrifying visage or
because
delightful.
He depicts himself as almost like a Raphaelite David, and like he commissioned several artworks where he's like this beautiful... I don't know,
that's kind of scary too.
Beautiful porcelain person, like pure white, surrounded by nude cherubs.
So that's his afterlife?
It could be. He brought a lot of joy to the world. Maybe if there's a deity, that he was delivered his just desserts.
I'm just saying, I think Michael Jackson looking at your baby, making him laugh, would be a little horrifying from a mother's standpoint.
As long as he remains like this disembodied spectral entity that can't actually interact.
But what if he can?
World.
I mean, he could affect some things. What if...
You mean like Patrick Swayze turning on the stove in Ghost? So what would that be like? Diddling? Just a phantom diddle.
God!
Yeah, I'm glad that's not the film Paul Thomas Anderson made with what's his name? The Phantom Diddle. We're laughing a little too hard at that.
Somebody brought up the Barbara Hershey movie. What was that one called? Entity. Because the music in that was very frightening. It was like ding, ding. How was it? It was very staccato and robust.
I don't think I've seen Entity.
I haven't seen it in many years. It used to be on cable television a lot around Halloween.
I can't co-sign how it sounded.
It was supposed to be based on a true story, loosely or not at all, depending on how you see it, about a woman who was basically stalked by an entity, a creature from another world, and that could not be seen, that was raping her all the time. and they had this terrible music, and they couldn't really, because it was sort of like something for cable TV. I don't know if it ever had a theatrical release. It you couldn't really see what was going on, so the way they filmed it was kind of funny.
But isn't that like...
But scary.
Isn't that like a very old world explanation for someone with like...
Succubus.
Epilepsy or was having
sleep paralysis.
Psychotic fits. Oh, they don't look
schizophrenia.
For biological explanation. They weren't looking for that. They weren't looking to the mind. They were looking to the soul, or they were looking to the unseen. It's like, obviously, a ghost is raping you.
No, but they were like saying there's actually something there, like you could see it, like grabbing her boob. It's a funny
parts
film.
of the world aren't there yet. Parts of the world, they still think that.
If I hear the music from the entity, I walk in, I walk back out. I'm going to be in the kitchen till it's over.
But not because you fear the ghost. You fear having to watch a bad set-made-for-TV 70s movie.
The lighting's really terrible.
So is her performance in Entity like about square with her performance in Beaches, or was she operating on a higher...
Doesn't she also have that 80s hair that everyone was doing?
Just ignore me completely and say what you were going... the question you had loaded before I began talking.
My mind wandered. I was.
Do you remember
Beaches?
Yes. Is Barbara Hershey the same woman from Beaches?
I wish I didn't.
Does she have the range to play different kinds of characters, or was it just the woman from Beaches getting raped by a ghost?
I don't know. Is she one of those people who they can emote very well, but they're always basically playing the same character?
But she was in Black
Swan.
Doesn't
mean
I feel
they're
like Black
a poor
Swan.
Actress.
Didn't it feel like Black
really...
Swan, her character, that was the character from Beaches, kind of? It was like, oh, if that character were just...
became very bitter and...
Yes.
How would you describe that? Is there like a sort of mommy dearest thing, a Joan Crawford thing going on?
Oh, this is worth
recounting.
We
have to worry about the wire hangers.
I'm worried about people forgetting this great story. Remember when Black Swan came out and Natalie Portman went on the promotion tour, and she was like, people were praising her. You learned all of this ballet for Black Swan, and it was so impressive. And Natalie Portman was like, yes. But then it came out that there was a dancer that they CGI'd Natalie Portman's face onto who did all of the dancing. That wasn't Portman's body. It was kind of a scandal.
I did.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Shut it down.
I did look in. I'm not going to shut it down.
It's really funny, isn't it?
It is.
Just say it's true.
Fine.
It was like
I'm not even going to justify it.
It's like
she did do ballet and she did work very hard for the part, but there are some things that she just couldn't do.
It wasn't her. It's like when people were interviewing Annette Bening. It was like, oh, you were the model for the Columbia Pictures logo. And she was like, yes. And then there were photos came out of the actual model who looks exactly like the Columbia Pictures logo, and it completely debunked it. It's like, you just sat there taking credit for something you didn't do.
What would motivate someone to do that?
Maybe she just does so many press tours that some of the questions just go in one ear and out the other.
Could she have been on drugs or something and just not known? Maybe I did do that. Okay. Could she have just been like totally out of it and not remembered? Like
Let's say she was.
Maybe she was abducted and has missing time, and she could have done that.
In this moment, I couldn't tell you whether she's Warren Beatty's wife or sister.
Wife.
Who's his sister?
Shirley MacLaine. Okay. And that's someone who claims to have been abducted and sees ghosts.
I hear Shirley makes lots of McClaims. But if you said that Shirley MacLaine...
Talk about low-hanging fruit.
If you just told me Shirley MacLaine is Warren Beatty's wife, I would have been like, yeah, she is. Like, I just, in my mind, Annette Bening and Shirley MacLaine, it's like... I know Shirley MacLaine's much older, but they just sort of became one person.
No, is that because you never knew, or because they just sort of faded into the tapestry of time?
I loved Shirley MacLaine's performance in Cat in the Hot Tin Roof.
I'm thinking...
Was that her?
No.
Okay.
She was excellent in Can and... what was that movie called? What About Harry? It was one of her first films, or was it her first film?
She did the orgasm in the restaurant.
Film? Sure.
Okay, that was her. Right now, Shirley
Been there
MacLaine.
Once, sniffed it another time.
Right now, for me, Shirley MacLaine is like, she's like the the Alan Smithy of actresses from her era. It's like if you can't remember the name of the actress, just put Shirley MacLaine's name there, just until you can remember the actual name.
For you, I think a lot of people know who she is.
Was she in Bedknobs and Broomsticks?
No, that was Angela Lansbury.
Shit.
And they're not really anything alike, except that they're both old. Is Angela Lansbury dead?
How many wives did Shirley MacLaine have? Is she one of those ones that had like 9 husbands?
It could have been. The 60s were weird.
How many bedknobs did she polish? How many
magical
broomsticks did she
mystery.
ride?
It's a magical mystery tour up in here until Yoko shows up. Then it's The Ring.
Until Yoko shows up and has you climb a ladder and you realize, oh, you see the word yes and you have to lean in to see it and then you want to strangle her.
And then would Ben Affleck be called the Boston Strangler if that happened? You just go after her? Or would he be cowed by her celebrity?
I think he's the Boston Smoker of hot oiled men.
You're saying he's only interested in the men.
This was meant to be a ghost discussion.
Is that a slam on his ex-wife?
Yeah. This was meant to be a ghost discussion, and this is a ghost discussion. These are ghosts. Did you hear that Robert Redford's son recently died of cancer?
No.
Robert Redford is in his 80s. I think he's almost 90.
Did you hear that Tom Hanks' son raps?
You're making a joke, and I'm getting serious.
Why
okay.
are you getting
Can you imagine
serious?
living to that age as a celebrity and watching your aged son die before you?
Well, I think it would be that way for anyone, not just celebrities. Like, if you're not a celebrity, you don't fucking count.
Well, I'm saying it's
just check in.
Robert Redford was
home.
so attractive. Don't you think you can imagine him crying versus someone ugly crying?
What, did he whisper in your ear?
He's like an elderly,
Just act like
beautiful
nothing
elderly angel crying over. Fuck.
What does it say about Sylvester Stallone?
Curse these
We
microphones.
heard about that.
Yes, these. Okay, that's not.
I retract my statement.
Don't you think?
This conversation is
Don't
self-repelling.
you think Robert Redford seems like a very sensitive kind of guy?
No, not at all. I think he's a sociopath.
Okay. And he was at a film called All Is Lost recently, where he's in a boat, and then he
Is that talking about his looks?
So, I feel bad for Robert Redford.
Why?
Do you think he slept with Shirley MacLaine?
Well, yeah, I mean, just because they were in the same kiddie pool doesn't mean that they had to, like, swap spit.
But for those two people, it does.
Why?
Well, didn't Redford have the reputation as being like a ladies' man? He slept with all the starlets, and I think she was still a starlet in the 60s
She
when he
was
was
a
coming on.
starlet, but she was always a little bit different from everyone else. I don't think she slept around. I didn't get that impression. I don't know, but she just didn't seem that
That's
way.
not what I've heard.
I heard that she wasn't she good friends with Frank Sinatra, and he was very protective of her. The Rat Pack, she was friends with all of them, and they saw her as like a little sister.
I feel like Frank Sinatra's protection. I want to say Woody Allen got past Frank Sinatra's protection. Like that fish swam through the net. So that's not a great advertisement for Sinatra's protection.
She was gone. They had broken things off for quite a while before that happened. Woody Allen was down the line somewhat. And I think of her as being like some kind of beard.
He looks like,
did he get together with her just to hook up with her adopted
you'd
daughter?
hear about the Rack Pat. We'll get to that. But
but I mean seriously,
you
she'd
hear
already
about,
adopted her daughter by that point.
You hear about the Rat Pack taking people out, having people taken out into the desert and beaten. If they were doing that, it seems like even if he wasn't with Mia Farrow,
If they were doing that, why weren't they arrested?
Do you even have to ask? At that point, Las Vegas was run by the mob, and the mob made Frank Sinatra's career. He had all of the coast connections. He could do what he wanted. He was like a prince. He was like the equivalent of a prince in Dubai, in Las Vegas. And there's a parallel there because these are desert cities. It's like at one point Sinatra was like the prince of Las Vegas.
So you have to take your nefarious deeds out to the desert and have sort of a moat of heat and sand between you and the rest of the world, be inaccessible in some fashion to carry out these.
I mean, maybe you did, maybe you didn't. Maybe they just thought that amped the drama, and it was a more terrifying experience for the person who was being, rendered that street justice. So I feel like if Frank Sinatra were doing that, it seems like even if he weren't with Mia Farrow at the time, he'd take one look at Woody Allen and say, yeah, that guy has a desert beating coming.
Sing, thank you, FBI agent Sandra Bullock. Wasn't there like a complicated kata of moves that she executed in that film, Miss Congeniality? She was an FBI agent undercover at a beauty pageant.
I feel like
she learned a lot about herself and her womanhood.
I know enough that I know William Shatner was in that film, but I think so few people...
Does William Shatner know he was in that film?
I think so few people saw the film. He could have hidden his wife's body on like a full display in one of the scenes.
How many William Shatner killing his wife jokes are you going to pack into this tin can?
I think she could have been hanging in a tree like the dwarf in Wizard of Oz.
You just
like in one of the scenes.
You open this podcast and it's like the snakes popping out, except it's William Shatner's wife.
Who was the leading man in Miss Congeniality? Like the object of interest for women. It wasn't Shatner. It had to have been one.
Oh my God, I know. Law and Order. What's his name?
Benjamin Bratt.
It might have been.
There's another guy who kind of looks like him, and
yes.
We get them mixed up.
But it was one of them. Just say somebody who was marginally successful and easily forgettable.
Yeah, that he might as well have been in Shatner's pool on that night for all the places his career went. Law and Order doesn't tend to do much for people's careers. What is Mariska Haggerty? What has she done outside of Law and Order? That other guy, the guy who looks kind of like Stanley Tucci.
Mariska Haggerty wasn't her mother, famous starlet.
Not Stanley Tucci. The guy who
I'm trying to remember.
The guy who looks like Elias Cotier's, but you look at him and you're like, we already have Elias Cotier's, so we don't need this guy.
And how many people feel they need Elias Cotier's?
Is it Christopher Maloney is who I'm thinking of?
Yes. But he's very beloved online. I don't know why, but he is.
If you slipped him in...
I think because he knows how to do some cute social media, and that works for some people.
But I'm just saying, in any of the Ninja Turtles reboots, if they'd slipped him in as Casey Jones, there isn't a person alive who wouldn't have thought, oh, they got back the original actor. You would have thought that. They look so similar.
No, I wouldn't have, Shannon.
Because Elias Cotier's had sort of long hair as Casey Jones. If you put that same wig on Christopher Maloney, you think the average person would think that it wasn't the same person? You're giving people too much credit.
They're slightly similar. Slightly.
Jesus, they're slightly dissimilar.
But there is just this little bit of hamminess that you get on just Cotier as he takes it a little bit farther. And
if you're Greek and you know how that last name is pronounced, we're very sorry, because we know we're probably not pronouncing his last name correctly. I know he's like the very proud Greek man, and I think he might have been even like the mayor of
Who
Greek.
are we sorry to? John Stamos?
But John Stamos doesn't take his heritage seriously, but I think Elias Cotier was raised in a traditional Greek household. He speaks
Nia
Greek.
Vardalos?
I think he was
I think
he was a politician in Greece. I think he was the mayor of a Greek city. Let's just move on. Seriously.
I mean, but it's being mayor of a Greek city, isn't that sort of like, being mayor of some sort of like...
Don't, Mariah. But that is like a huge affront to Greece. It's like we had to find someone who was raised in Canada who can run our city better than anyone from here can. I mean, that's damning, isn't it? I guess it's not. I mean, a lot of people have counselors come and sort out their lives who aren't a part of their family. That's very common.
There's no shame in seeking help.
But if you're a Greek and you seek help from Canada, there's shame.
So we're talking about...
So which one of these actors do you think believes in these ghosts?
What ghost? The ghost of Michael Jackson? Do you think Janet Jackson fears the ghost of her brother? Or is that a comfort to her? Or does she just think it's her staring back at her?
I think
is it like Taylor Swift waking up and seeing a photograph of herself on the wall?
I think she's had enough plastic surgeries that she's lapped him, so it would be like it's too out. His plastic surgery is too outdated. It's like that would have been how she looked like 5 plastic surgeries ago.
So she just shrieks and runs to the bathroom and then feels around on her face and then sighs with relief.
Yeah. But don't you think a lot of these celebrities get to a point where they would say they believed in anything because they think, oh, are you like interested in me appearing on one of those shows like Ghost Hunters International? So, I mean, you get to a certain level of success, lack of success, and yeah, you believe in ghost. When you get to that Gary Busey level, it's not an option, is what I'm saying.
Are you saying it's like Monopoly where you pass go too many times and you just hit this place where you have to accept whatever's on the boardwalk?
I'm saying a lot of the celebrities who appeared on Dancing with the Stars, if they'd been a little more successful, would have found the notion of exposing themselves learning how to dance to a national audience to be appalling.
No, but haven't we bypassed that now? Because, who even watches cable TV anymore?
Old people.
Who,
Not all. There's very hip, savvy older people who don't, but generally that demographic skews very old. People who still watch cable television.
So, like, the future is more like, I don't know, Hulu and Netflix, sort of more like,
I don't know.
Very television shows with high production value.
I think in things,
not so much movies anymore.
I think technology is changing so fast, and it's been shown that it can change so fast that I don't think it's ever safe to say the future is this or that.
But it is at the moment.
Well, I'll just say it's the present. And the near future, as far as we can tell. But what I'm saying is, if your career is at a certain state of decrepitude, then you believe in ghost. Yes, you'll be a ballroom dancer. Yes, yes, yes. You agree to things you otherwise never would have dreamt of if your career had. Let me reset the question. You agree to things you otherwise would never have dreamt of if you'd been more successful.
Is this like Scientology? You agree to thetans. I have them.
No, but
I have been infested.
The thing is, Mariah, if you get to that point and you do all these things,
divest me of these thetans, take my money.
You're less likely to be a Scientologist because they have less to hold over you because you're just really willing to expose everything for a buck.
So Trisha Paytas would never be a Scientologist. It's already all out there. That might be the smartest way to go in this era.
I'll just say yes, but
make a lot of money off it.
I don't know what that name is, but I'll agree.
Well, I think there's a difference between saying you believe things. I believe this.
Should I leave in the part with me rapping as Kevin Federline? It's really been eating away at me. Anyway, yeah.
But
okay, beyond that, who do you think are the celebrities who actually believe in
I
ghosts?
was going to say, there's a difference between saying I believe in the concept of ghosts and saying that you know what that concept is.
Obviously, then there's I've seen them.
Well, I've seen something. You don't know what it is. We call it a ghost. We call it a demon. We call it a genie.
And then beyond that, I'm a person who walks between two worlds,
do you think
like
Will
Saul
Smith
Shay.
Thinks they're genies after playing a genie?
No, speaking of vanilla.
Do you think genies visit Will Smith?
My God, Will Smith. That's a person. Is there a better example of
and by genies I mean Djinn.
Is there a better
traditional Djinn?
Is there a better example of a person than Will Smith than someone who was locked in to what their image was going to be their entire life and stuck to it at an earlier age?
Yes. Have you seen his TikTok
No, but I recently,
incredibly vanilla.
out of curiosity, just because it was there, I've heard about Will Smith, the Fresh Prince.
Talk about dialing it in.
And DJ Jazzy Jeff. I've heard about that my entire life. That was like his rap duo from the 80s before he made it big. And I listened to their album, the one that the Fresh Prince theme song is on, and predictably, every song on the album sounds like either a slowed up or sped up version of the Fresh Prince theme song, just like boom, 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 boom. One of the tracks is about A Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, was he just writing songs about whatever was on television? Apparently. But it just does sound like the Fresh Prince theme song, but he's rapping about Freddy Krueger. I think he doesn't say Freddy Krueger's name because I think he's worried about, I don't know, legal repercussions, so he keeps it sort of vague. But it's very G-rated and kid-friendly, and it's like his image then, and he must have been a teenager, is the same as it is now. So talk about consistency for your brand. Is there anything else like that? Any other examples of someone who was just locked into a brand for their entire life?
I'm sure there are, but I haven't paid close attention to those types.
Tom Cruise, maybe?
Yeah, but
I mean, think about the people. Typically,
there's something sort of juvenile about these lock-ins. There's something kind of gross about it. Like, I mean, you should have a youthful spirit. That's wonderful to have as you get older. But they feel like they have, they feel like very much like they feel they have to be who they were when they were young.
You mean you think it's unfortunate that they didn't enter a period of exploration?
Yes, that. Sorry.
Shit. No, but I think the stereotype...
The janitorial staff are on standby for that one.
People think of people with squeaky clean images, like Miley Cyrus's Hannah Montana, and they think, oh, she's going to become a bad girl. It's like clockwork. She does. It's like that's fairly reliable that someone's going to, if they have a very clean image and they're a child star, they're going to...
Is it disappointing if they don't? Is there something strange about
didn't.
That? Yeah, okay.
I think that's weird. Or do you?
I don't think you have to become a bad boy or a bad girl.
He was
but
literally
you
in Bad Boys. And I think there was no cursing, so that's how much of a bad boy he was in Bad Boys.
Well, I mean, I feel like he acts extremely unenthusiastic now.
Sorry.
He behaves very unenthusiastic now about seemingly everything, and when he does roles, it feels very much like he's
It
feels like he's dialing it in, and so it's almost like the vestiges of age and
he perpetually acts
conservative
like he's,
ideas have combined with whatever sort of child actor clean image that he had before to make something worse.
It's like stately. It's like he acts like an ambassador, like he's Grace Kelly, and he's just married into like the royal family of Monaco. So I'm just going to wave at the crowds and
like
very politely
tired.
go about my life, and I'm going to go to press conferences.
Does he seem tired to you? There's just something lethargic about every appearance he makes.
How long has he been winning? That takes a toll on you. Look at Mr. Winning, Charlie Sheen.
I don't know. I think he's more lively.
Yeah. He can still charge up the battery when he wants to.
If he's ordering hookers on Craigslist, sure. They knew what they were getting into. There's nobody who doesn't at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, D. Martin. Come on.
Charlie Sheen might be one of the few cases where if you try to sue him and say, oh, he gave me AIDS, the judge might just throw that out. You slept with Charlie Sheen. You know what you were doing. Okay. I don't really believe that. It's just devastating.
Or is he like Michael, or who am I thinking of? Magic Johnson, and you feel like the AIDS gave him some kind of magical boost?
I'm almost certain we've already made this joke. It might have been on this podcast.
So we're talking about ghosts. A lot of ESP has been
You can
studied.
keep saying we are, but until we actually do, we're not.
Okay, do you have a ghost story?
No.
Okay, one night I woke up and I saw... We do have a ghost in this house. Several. There's an old man who looks like a farmer who just sort of wanders the yard or in and out of the bathroom. I know you haven't seen him, but other people have.
Okay. You say you saw a farmer. From what era?
I have no idea. It's just sort of a lanky, dark-haired man with a gaunt face.
How was he dressed?
Overalls.
So that's
He looks like he could be from the 1950s, but then maybe from this time as well. Just very nondescript.
I was the most recently overalls were worn was probably by like rappers in the 80s.
Not those kinds of overalls. We're not talking Gucci.
So
more like Dickies.
in these parts of these kinds of areas in America, like not exactly rural, but somewhere in between the city and the country, these kinds of sightings are frequently claimed. It's always, oh, this is near where Native Americans lived, or this is where an old ranch town, like a homestead, there was a homestead here, or there's a trading post, so people claim to see spirits that fit the description of those people. Like,
we are in an area that had a lot of cattle drives and a lot of farms.
But yeah, it's always like, oh, I woke up in the middle of the night and I heard all of these voices, like chanting, like Indian, like what people imagine in the noises a lot of Indians will make together, like historically. They'll say, oh,
I've never heard that.
I heard that, and it's like, I looked out the window and it was like ghost horses. It was like full on, like Radiohead.
Are you talking about something you've seen
Ghost
or something
horses.
Tom York's seen? I think Tom York was on drugs. That explains that.
Yes, especially because he saw it in England. It's like, that's really inexplicable. I just made that up. He didn't see a bunch of Indians, like ghost Indians moving through his yard, like in
Maybe they were
wherever he's from.
gypsies.
No, but in the United Kingdom, gypsies aren't like Romany. When they say gypsy, it's just like a low-class white
They
person.
just mean like Irish people?
Yeah, they just mean like a white person who hasn't done as well. You're a gypsy. That's what it means in Britain. Yeah, here they say, oh, I saw like a man with a long beard and like he's like a prospector. He's just going through the daily motions of what his life would have been in 1865. He walked down to where the well must have been. He walked up the hill, carrying his bucket. It's like, it's never like, oh, I saw someone from like 1992.
No, I see that too.
You don't. And I'm not talking, this is an attack against you. It's always like the 19th century with these ghosts. Generally, it's always the 19th century. It's like, were they saying people stopped being ghosts beyond the 19th century? Maybe it's like with an operating system, they just reached a critical mass in resources, so everyone else just gets deleted after their life. Is that horrifying? Heaven is like a hard drive, and it's full, so we don't have the resources to save all of these people.
Well, I mean, you could say that maybe it's some sort of...
Right, I'm creating the plot of Lawnmower Man 3 here, and you're ignoring it. This is gold.
I never saw Lawnmower Man. Was that Kevin Bacon?
Yeah.
Kevin Bacon doesn't know that, and he's on TikTok too.
It was one of the few parts where he wasn't playing a pedophile. He really likes to play pedophiles.
But he seems like such a nice man off camera.
He's probably like, someone's got to do it.
He has a very working man, just a coarseness approaching those roles, just like it puts meat and potatoes on the table.
You know who never played a pedophile? Jeffrey Jones.
Doesn't that say... No, that's not true. Valmont, he was marrying a much younger woman.
I didn't know he was in Valmont. So was Amadeus like his audition for Valmont? It's like, oh, you already played this kind of part. You were good in it, so we'll cast you in this too.
You said it.
Are you? Or did I say it, or are you agreeing with it?
I am. Do I need to? It's obvious.
You have that kind of face, like he has the profile of someone like from one of those paintings. It's like you look like you're of the era.
Like a wet white rabbit.
So that doesn't get the ladies' pants wet. Oh, that's not how they describe their beau. Like the guy they're really into. He was like a wet white rabbit. So hot.
A really large one, like an Easter bunny. I'm talking like, what was that movie with what was that movie with the giant rabbit who was and this plays into what I was thinking about.
Are you talking about
Elwood?
Oh, I thought you were talking about Howard the Duck, which he was actually in.
Oh God, no! But
are you talking about? No, there was Jimmy Stewart movie. That's not Elwood.
What was the name of that? I thought the name of the rabbit was Elwood.
No, it was like Harvey.
Ah, that's right. Who was Elwood?
I think Elwood was the name of the character in the Blues Brothers. I think our mother had a stuffed rabbit she might have named after that character, but we can't ask her now, so we don't know if that's true.
She did,
you can guess.
But I don't know where she got the Dowd. Is that also from the Blues Brothers?
I only remember Elwood. I don't remember
Elwood
Dowd.
Blues. So, no. But Harvey. I'm thinking of Harvey.
Is that a dead name now, like Adolf, like after Harvey Weinstein? It's like you can't name a kid Harvey.
It is now. But I think maybe it could be that there's another dimension that we're seeing at different times. It's just, maybe it's not ghosts. Maybe it's just a parallel universe.
This doesn't answer my question. Why every time someone in America says they've seen a spirit, like 90% of the time, it's from the 19th century? Oh, it's like a woman in like a frilly dress from 1870.
I don't get that. I've heard of that in places that are in iconic hotels in the Midwest, places like that. But
I think M. Night Shyamalan had a really good angle on that.
Mostly I hear about people seeing their moms or their dads or their grandpas.
Right, when you hear the name M. Night Shyamalan, from that point on, you're like in the audience. You're listening.
Is he in the audience with me? Yes, I want to hear somebody talk about me. I'm relevant again.
Play to the camera. But remember in The Sixth Sense, he had like the ghost of a girl who was vomiting because she was being poisoned, but she was like a contemporary ghost, and there was something creepy about that. She wasn't from the 19th century. It was like someone who just died a few years ago. I think he had a really good idea with that.
Well, if you hang out on Reddit, humanoid encounters. Sorry, I was getting the Craigslist casual encounters, mixed up. But there are so many accounts of people seeing so many strange things that I don't think I've even ever read an account of some sort of turn-of-the-century ghost.
Like an entity with Barbara Hershey, I'm convinced that if the ghost had assumed a material form, it would have looked like Chris Christopherson in like a prospector's outfit.
I think that was a genie, some kind of poltergeist.
I think it was a made-for-TV movie.
But if that thing did exist, I don't think it was the image of a human that is passed on.
What if the genie from Aladdin, Robin Williams' genie, had immediately raped Aladdin?
I think it would have been more in keeping with things happening in the Middle East.
It would have been more in line with the terror that the Djinn are usually cast in. When they appear in stories, they're usually a horrible kind of entity.
Yes.
They don't mean good. They mean nothing bad. You don't want to mess with a Djinn in these stories.
Because the way they're described, they're not described as like humans. They're something from another world. They even supposedly have their own world that they come from. That sounds like another dimension to me. That sounds like a completely different kind of creature. It's not human.
What if Aladdin... What if the film went the way it goes and nothing's changed? He grants Aladdin his first wish. He makes him a prince, and he goes to the city to meet the princess. But what if the genie sees the princess and goes crazy and kills Aladdin and, like, rapes the princess?
But
I feel like that would have been more like what would actually happen in one of these stories. The genie The Djinn feels like, oh, the Djinn wants to enjoy earthly pleasures from time to time.
Well, I haven't researched this, but I know there's supposedly a lot of stories throughout history of succubuses and incubuses and all of these entities that enjoyed carnal pleasures with humans. But what I hear, that Barbara Hershey movie is the only modern one I've ever heard of, and I've read a lot of stories of ghost encounters.
But you can't prove that it wasn't a 19th century ghost.
You can't. But the Djinn, the way they're described, it's I'd want to know why they even have any interest in crossing over to our world, our dimension, wherever we are. I mean, why would they care about us at all? There has to be something that they have to gain, and what is that?
Do you feel like...
I mean, if they have this power to affect us, this power that we covet.
I feel like if you're talking about Hill Country Ghost, we have some like experience from which we can create a
stories. We have stories.
Well, an interesting point of view that's that it's being pulled in a concrete direction by the experience we've had. But when you go to the Djinn, I feel like that's not there. There's no bottom. I feel like I'm free floating. Like I don't know where this is going.
I don't feel like I am, because I have encountered something that is very like what has been described as a Djinn.
Yeah, but those are only in the Middle East. Some ghosts are only in certain places.
Is that the rule? Are we talking about Beetlejuice?
So is a poltergeist just a Djinn?
Maybe. What if that's just their interpretation of it?
That's just a German...
there's a million interpretations of the Great Flood throughout different cultures. Different cultures worship dragons and snakes. I mean, why wouldn't there be...
They worship snakes?
I don't know. Well, I mean, there's a lot of stories of snake gods, serpent gods, even with the Bible. It's if you want to count...
I think Jake the Snake Roberts should have worshipped snakes, because his character just wasn't that interesting beyond the snake.
I have no idea who you're talking about.
He's a wrestler who would go on...
I was wondering if Eric Roberts had another moniker that I was unaware of.
He had another life as a wrestler.
I would believe that.
He was like this tall man with male pattern baldness who would go into the ring with a boa constrictor, and he was called Jake the Snake Roberts.
I instantly feel concerned for the snake. Like, that seems like a bad environment for animals and children and anything with delicate sensibilities. Only humans would want to be surrounded by screaming people.
That's possible, but I think he owes a lot to the snake. I don't remember him being very interesting character. I can't remember any catchphrases. With Hacksaw Jim Duggan, you can remember some of his catchphrases, and he didn't even have a snake to work with. He just went out.
Sorry, I don't live in a trailer. I don't know a lot about WWF and the dramas therein.
Do you remember The Mouth from the South?
No.
Jimmy Hart?
Kind of.
The Ultimate Warrior. Jimmy Hart was like this little wiry guy with
Why do you know this?
With sunglasses, and he always appeared with Hulk Hogan.
This is
he was
more
like Hulk
concerning than me talking about ghosts, Shannon.
Well, you're throwing shade on millions of people, because this is in the childhood of millions of people. It's in the adulthood of millions of people, too.
Okay.
Shit.
Are those people listening to our podcast? Probably not.
The Ultimate Warrior is dead. Did you know that?
If I don't know who he is, how do I know if he's passed on? Has he visited me?
Macho Man Randy Savage is dead.
I know who he is. He had a very... he was a prolific celebrity... presence.
He would be one of the most obvious ghosts ever. I mean, he could not hide his identity.
But what if he just looks like... I mean, what if it's like The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke, where you take off all the makeup and gewgaws, and he's this...
Or what if it's like in Ghostbusters, where when you die, you just become this claymation character that doesn't look anything like the way you looked when you were alive? Or just this grotesque, phantasmagorical claymation.
They weren't all like that. I mean, talking about seeing something, a period ghost, there was one that was a succubus that had it was intimated within the film that she was giving Dan Aykroyd a blowy under
Those
the
were
covers.
real.
That was a children's film.
Well, that's why that scene was cut from the film. It didn't make the final cut. I think
I
it's
thought
in
it
special.
did.
It's in special editions that were sometimes shown.
I remember seeing that when I was a kid.
Those were physical props. Those ghosts. It wasn't CGI. Imagine what they smell like now.
What? Ew, God! It's probably
imagine
like
them.
I know
The
somebody.
one in
was
the library
trying-
that probably exists somewhere.
I know that Hoggle does from Labyrinth, and someone was trying to
Imagine the smell.
restore him.
Imagine the smell.
Why? Why are you doing this to me?
Well, we know Hoggle exists. He plays
This is
guitar
why I
for the
can't
Rolling
read-
Stones.
This is why I can't read the Magus, even though I have great respect for that work.
Talk about dropping a reference that everyone can get on board with. But I'm going to say my joke again because you missed it. Hoggle exists. He plays guitar for the Rolling Stones. Okay, I got it out.
And I got it. So did whoever married him. I think she was 18. He
Well,
was.
to
he
be
was
fair, I'm
crossing
talking
off
about
the days to her birthday.
I think you've mistaken which geriatric I was talking about. I was talking about Keith Richards, but I think you're thinking of Ron Wood.
Yes.
Okay.
I
Who's a
think his
gypsy.
likeness more closely resembles Hoggle.
And he's a British gypsy, which means not Romany. He's just like a grimy old British guy. Or I guess he has enough money that he's not a gypsy, because I think what makes you a gypsy in the United Kingdom is your wealth.
I don't know enough about ethnicities in Great Britain.
They don't either. You think the average British person could explain the entire situation between all of the different ethnic groups, the different tribal descents that are going on in Britain? They're lost. They'd just be lost.
So am I. So wait.
They would be like Frodo when he puts the ring on. All these ghosts just flying at them, like all these different people.
We've gotten so far away from, and you're making me think of High Spirits with Daryl Hannah, where the ghosts are just coming out of the wall and the bricks, the masonry are flying about.
So that's a good point. When Frodo puts the ring on, and he's just, at least in the Peter Jackson film, he's transported to this other world where people just appear as like phantasms. Do you think that's what it was like when Barbara Hershey the ghost was having its way with her? It was like that sort of horror.
Barbara Hershey, the actress, or the character she was playing?
It just depends on how method she was. I mean, maybe it was real for her while it was happening.
In like a Marlon Brando, Last Tango in Paris kind of way. What are we
I don't know.
talking
I don't
about?
want to get into like the difficult territory of defending Marlon Brando.
Leave that to Johnny Depp. But I remember fondly every Halloween, Coast to Coast AM with Art Bell would do a ghost to ghost segment, and they would just have people call in with ghost stories.
I feel like that's their brand, though. So if how do you make a Halloween episode if your whole brand is Halloween?
I guess they just canceled out the time traveler line that night.
So when someone has a ghost story,
Don't
a little
call in
closer,
about-
a little closer.
Yes, thank you. Don't call in about Area 51.
But yeah. Do you think if someone calls in with a ghost story, they say, "Could you call back like in October because we're saving that for our ghost episode"? So, but if you've had an alien encounter, we'll let you on.
Well, they have themes each night. They only let people calling in on the theme.
Well, how many
speak.
supernatural themes are there? There are 365 days in the year.
Well, they're not always talking about ghost stories, and sometimes they only talk about specific ghost stories, like highway ghost stories or, Men in Black, things like that, Loch Ness Monsters, Bat People, the Jersey Devil.
I don't think you can confine each of these columns into one day of the year. Like, I think there are circumstances where a werewolf story might need to be told not on Werewolf Day, like it's an emergency. And I would say the same thing for many different subjects. Like, it's not
just talking about.
It's not UFO Day, but I got to get this off my chest. This just happened, so I think they had to make exceptions. They couldn't just. They had to play.
But just because you have to get it
fast
off your
and loose
chest
with those
doesn't mean
rules.
you get to have it on their program.
But what if it was literally on your chest, like an alien?
What am I, Whitley Strieber over here? I'm just. It's fire in the sky.
Like, what if DB Sweeney, like after that encounter, had
God,
called?
I
what if
invited that.
What
We
if
don't
he'd-
need to talk about DB Sweeney. Leave him in Canada.
What if his character from Fire in the Sky had called Art Bell, but they were like, "It's not the day." It's like, dude, this just happened. Like,
Okay,
there's
I
a
get
scene.
what you're saying now.
There's a scene.
That would be terrible.
There's
You
a scene
have
in the
this
film.
Thing has happened
There's
to
a
you,
scene
but
in the
no
film
one
where
wants
he's
to
like,
hear about it.
he's discovered like huddled and naked, and it's like he has one phone call to make, and it's like, dude, no, it's not Alien Day. You are shut down. Toe
Well,
pick.
then I think it's very unfortunate if you used your one phone call to call a radio program and not like the hospital, the police.
Whitley Strieber.
But I think it is very traditional to tell. It used to be traditional to tell ghost stories around Christmas time, and that was you can see that influence in things like Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol.
You know how, like, at a campfire, people will pass around the flashlight. Whoever's telling the ghost story will point the flashlight at their face. What did people do before flashlights? How did they scarily illuminate their faces?
They burned them off. You just
It's comedy gold, Mariah.
You pass the torch too quickly.
They used fire. What is that supposed to do? Like putting the flashlight in your face?
Cast frightening shadows. If you're Joan Rivers, you pass it on by. He's like, no.
No, she had that taken care of. She would be. She would put that flashlight on her face with full confidence that any problematic areas have been completely smoothed out like a river stone. Oh, Jesus.
Like a river stone, Shannon. But our mother used to see ghosts.
I think it's Helen Hunt who'd passed.
Leave Helen Hunt alone. She's not even bothering anyone
stop
anymore.
White knighting millionaires. Think about all the nice meals she's had compared to us.
Why do we have to go to meals? It sounds like we're starving. Think about the nice meals.
No, like
she's
5-star restaurants. Think about all the oysters she sucked down.
I don't want oysters.
Well, vegan oysters. Does anyone make vegan oysters?
Yes, it's a mushroom. But
No,
I'm not.
it's not.
But I'm not interested in the fish flavors. It bothers me.
I think it's like an
I
aphrodisiac.
think I would projectile vomit.
I think when they swallow, it's like
That's
it's like
wonderfully
it's
aphrodisiac.
like fishy ejaculate, like the sensation.
And
So
it's gonna come right back out on your chest.
like Peter North.
That's not donut glaze. I'm sorry.
He's Canadian. For me, he's one of the top 3 Canadians, like Glenn Gould, Peter North, and someone else.
There are top 3 and
Say
someone else.
The
Who
French
are we talking
Canadian
about?
guy.
Dave Coulier?
The
Is
French,
he even from Canada?
No, he's not. The French Canadian guy who had like a cooking show who talked like this.
Oh God, I haven't thought
Is it
about
Chuck?
him. Yes, Chuck something.
He's like, now I'm going to show you how to make cookies. It's like, why do you talk like that? Just speak normally.
Did you just tell him to talk American?
No, but it's not like he had an accent. It's something else was happening. It wasn't that he had an accent, but my criticism...
Didn't he have a long battle with drugs and alcohol?
I mean, he spoke like he was one of those people...
I think that he
he spoke like one of those people that has had throat cancer.
Yeah,
and
I think he, like Anthony Bourdain, blamed the industry.
No,
it's a sexy rock and roll industry.
He just spoke like
chefs.
that. He did not have a tracheotomy. He just spoke like that.
You don't think he smoked a whole lot? Okay, I was going to say our mother saw a lot of ghosts. I've seen a lot of ghosts.
Well, she's not here to corroborate, confirm, or tell it.
That means we can say whatever we want.
No, it doesn't. You have to honor someone else's stories.
Yes, but I know her stories very well.
Well, tell them like you would tell. Say, this is my recollection of them, not this is what happened.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I don't know. She said one time
I will live edit you, and I'm like the only person in the world who can. Because it's my history too.
This is true.
Like if Christopher Walken were here and he were trying to live edit you, you'd like, I'm gonna push you off the fucking boat like Natalie would. or like you pushed. Who was the actress from Batman Returns that he pushed out of the window?
Yes, I'm thinking of that very strongly. Michelle Pfeiffer.
Why would he? If there are these rumors,
he did that too well.
No. If there are these, it's unconfirmed rumors that Natalie, the weird circumstances involving Natalie Wood's death between he and who was the other actor? It was Christopher Walken, Natalie Wood, and another big actor, Robert Wagner, who was on the boat with them. So why would you agree to do a film? So because this is a claim made against you. She was pushed off boat allegedly. So why would you agree? No, even if it wasn't true and you knew that was out there, why would you? Does he feel like, oh, I'm so confident in like my innocence that I'll shoot this. I'll do it in spite of that, just to show I don't care because it's not true. You think that was what was going on?
But you're assuming that he isn't innocent.
No. That would be assumed innocence. Like, oh, I'm innocent of this, and I care so little about the accusation that I'll shoot this film where I do kill this woman in a similar way because it's not true.
Oh,
why should I worry about?
Why
should I care about that?
I mean, maybe so much time has passed, it just doesn't matter. He doesn't think about it.
He just thought, oh, I'm really good at this. Where do these skills come from? What is it?
Is Michelle Pfeiffer still alive?
Yeah. She was in What Lies Beneath 20 years ago.
That isn't a ringing endorsement for her.
Speaking of Natalie Wood, What Lies Beneath. Did they recover the bot? This is not what I had imagined for the Halloween episode.
Well, I can tell my stories.
If someone is drowned in the ocean, what do they haunt? Because the body's constantly moving. It's like...
I don't know. Maybe they're like, maybe that's where mermaids come from.
I was about to say, what if that's the origin of like aquatic, legendary aquatic creatures, like people who
Sirens.
were drowned?
Who knows? It's, you can't assume that you know anything. Just what you see. And even what you see, I mean, you could be schizophrenic. You could be having some kind of psychotic episode.
Like, what if Christopher Walken had like a fear of mermaids now? Like the sweet vengeance that's coming for him. He's scared of mermaids the way those teenagers in the 90s were scared of Gordon's fishermen.
I've never seen him in a beach movie, and I just assume that's because he's really pale and he doesn't, beaches.
You're acting like this is some great evidence, but I'm just saying, no, it's not evidence of anything. It's just a big nothing burger.
I've never seen him in any sort of oceanic themed film. No Nick Nolte type roles, The Deep, no shark movies. And he did enough cheesy films that he could have been in something like Piranha.
There's some film out there that someone knows that is just going to blow this theory out of the water. There's some ocean movie he's been in.
But maybe it scarred him. I don't know. But, maybe just the experience itself, if we're talking about, if we're not attempting to be funny, just somebody, maybe she was he was very good friends with Natalie Wood, and she died. That's a huge weight to carry around. And I mean, the weight doesn't want to be on a boat again.
Not only the death of this person, but that a lot of people think you did it and you didn't. That would be some enormous weight to carry around.
It is. Like a watch in your butt.
That would be a godsend. Then he could just take it out. The watch is always at the moment she was pushed into the water. This is horrible.
But I mean, you say you've never seen a ghost. You've never had a paranormal experience.
Or I'm the kind of person who, if I hear anything weird happens to me, I just look for practical explanations. So
I know, and you never remember the times that things have happened and you've been part of it.
Maybe there has been ghost play in my life, but I just explained it away with something else.
There have been so many moments where, like that time that I saw...
I have had sleep paralysis. I've woken up and been able to move, but there is actually a medical explanation for that condition. It's terrifying. It's happened to me once in my life.
Well, it's it could, sleep paralysis. You can't always assume that it's a ghost. You can't always assume it's medical. You'd have to have a doctor there and check you out.
No, it's safe to assume it's never a ghost, Mariah. It's not like, oh, that's on the table. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It's not like that.
Yes, it is.
It's like, oh, I'm having a fever. It's not like, well, maybe you're being haunted. Maybe you just have a fever. Said no one ever.
Wait, who is that guy? John Edwards. John Edwards has probably said that.
He's one of the
David
biggest...
Blaine has probably
one of the
said
biggest
that.
con men of like the last 30 years, John Edwards.
Are there members of the Golden Dawn who could have said that?
The Golden Dawn. It's like a Greek militia.
I think you have to think of the idea of the paranormal as being more like a river and not a pool. It's not a Charlotte Rampling tour de force. It's more Billy Joel and not Billy Idol.
Oh no,
It moves.
I can think of it however I want.
But I'm talking about the right way to think of it.
But you haven't proven to me that there's some sort of merit to thinking about it anyway.
At all.
Like if you think about it this way versus what are the risk
There is
and
merit
rewards,
because obviously it
for
is
each tier.
It's something that so many people have claimed experience with.
I know if you're in films like Poltergeist
there are a lot of people that come from trailer parks I'm not disparaging all people in trailer parks, but you just think of people who are sort of down on their luck, who don't have the advantages of privilege and education, uneducated people to be more superstitious.
I know.
But all people from all walks of life think they've seen something.
I think there are there are definitely places where you can have the wrong point of view on the supernatural and the right point of view, and I think where it really matters is like Patrick Wilson's filmography since Watchmen. If you're in a Patrick Wilson film since Watchmen, you're in a horror film because that's all he does. So
why is that?
Why did he become like a horror king?
Is it just something that worked for him? So he's just like, okay. I know he does a lot of things on Broadway, but
not anymore. He's gonna have to double and triple up on those horror parts now. COVID. There's no Broadway.
Yeah, I hear New York is just shut down. Combination of
hot take.
Real estate. Yeah.
Okay, Mariah. Let's go back to the bathroom ghost because I really want to know about the bathroom ghost. I know there was a bathroom ghost in Harry Potter, and that was very meaningful to a lot of people.
Who played that character?
It doesn't matter. Her career is over. So rest in peace.
Well, there are a lot of theories about paranormal activity. The cities and places it seems to be more prevalent. I mean, some of it could be places where people are more superstitious, but it's also there's some speculation about places that are more swampy and foggy, places with high humidity. It seems to affect them, whatever this thing is that crosses over.
New York City?
I don't know. I was thinking more Louisiana, some places near the beach. There's the UK. There are places where it just seems like it's more likely due to high humidity. There's something about that humidity affecting whatever these entities are. I heard an amazing story about a woman who was renting a shitty apartment and had lost her job, and she was on the phone asking her mother to help her because she had a new baby. She had lost this job. She was on her own, and her mom was kind of not being very fair and just kind of giving her the runaround. And suddenly they heard somebody on the line with them yell something to the effect of, why won't you help her? She's your daughter, and getting really angry. And it was a scary voice.
Spectral. Like a spectral voice.
Well, no, they said it was very, gravelly and frightening. And the woman later learned that, and the mom said, hang up the phone, like somebody's on the line with us, obviously. And then she told the story to the person that she was renting the apartment from, and they said the guy, and maybe she was messing with her, I don't know, but she said the guy who had owned the apartments before her had lived in that apartment, and he had a voice box, and he died in that room. So, I mean, I was thinking about telephones.
What if it was just a party line? It was the guy downstairs.
It could be,
He
but
had a gravelly voice. Was this in New Orleans?
No, but I mean, there's something
Where was
about
this?
I don't remember. It was something I read on Humanoid Encounters. There's a lot of great stories there. There are so many stories that I think are connected to either humidity or electricity. But I think that might have something to do with whatever they are, whatever they're made of.
Don't you think
can affect that?
Ghosts become a laughing. Maybe ghosts become a laughing matter with people like me, or not a laughing matter.
You always think about them turning the lights on and off.
Maybe I want to I guess wish them away using logic and facts. Because it's quite scary. The idea that
it didn't work with Charlie Sheen.
No, well, the idea he's
still here.
It's horrifying, isn't it?
It's 2020, and Charlie Sheen is still alive. We have COVID, and he's still alive.
So you're saying logically he shouldn't be alive?
I don't know. I'm just saying you can wish it away all you want, but some things are here to stay.
Who's wishing away? the porn star? He gave AIDS. Is she wishing for his death? Who's wishing? Trying to wish him away?
His father.
Emilio? I think he has a great relationship with Emilio.
But do we know that since, the tiger blood?
I think he said he's probably shared enough women with Emilio that if Emilio has AIDS, he just needs to come out with it. I mean, we know. I mean, remember that film they made?
Wasn't he involved with Paula Abdul?
Okay. I was speaking, now I'm listening. Go on.
Well, no, it was a youthful relationship. I don't know if it would be affected. I don't know when Charlie Sheen contracted AIDS.
Okay, but when was that film made where they were like garbage men? It was funny. What's it called?
I really love the actor from that too.
Emilio Estevez.
I'm thinking of Keith David. He's amazing. Talk about a voice coming over the phone. There's a reason he played the voodoo man in Princess and the Frog. He has a very deep, mystifying voice. A very, very, very confident voice. I was thinking about Macbeth. There were a lot of ghosts in Macbeth, but they were all contemporary for them. It's not like they were, I don't know, Roman emperors.
They were all people who had just been alive recently.
Mm-hmm. That were coming to, weigh in on events. But why would a ghost want to affect things happening? Why would they care anymore?
I was trying to say earlier, people try to, someone like me, try to explain away anything that could be taken by another person to be an example of something supernatural or otherworldly that had happened. I'll use all the tools in my critical thinking toolkit to give it a earth-based explanation. And it's maybe one of the reasons is that I guess the notion of being a ghost is absolutely bone chilling. When people if they think of an afterlife, the expectation, maybe the hope is you're going to see some of the people you've lost. It's not that, you're going to be perpetually stuck in this limbo.
I think it's very popular.
And you're
to
mostly,
think that you won't be anything anymore. That you just become part of everything.
And you're mostly going to be interacting with just a never-ending stream of like strangers in hotel rooms, not your loved ones. And you're not going to know where you are, and you're going to be like going through the motions of like the last thing you did.
Or David Carradine. Wouldn't he be stuck in Thailand?
I think
in a motel.
I think he and Tony Bourdain are having identical like afterlives.
I think they both saw it coming too.
I think Tony.
If only he died on top of that pyramid.
I think Tony Bourdain saw the wrong people coming. I think he knew a little bit too much.
If he's
Some
out,
very powerful people.
If you're out there, Tony, you can come crash on my couch. My door is open. I shouldn't say that, but who knows what you're inviting? Who knows what happens once someone's on the other side?
Yeah, don't.
Do you think they issued him some kind of genie outfit and said, "Go twerk"? I don't see him. He was such a bag of bones.
This is horrifying. This is really disrespectful. Tony Bourdain was a very beloved figure on Instagram and Twitter.
Dude, I read all of his books. He was a darling in Twitter. I read the bad books. I read
he was
that one that was so terrible where it was like it was sort of a Mr. and Mrs. Smith take on some a hitman girlfriend and boyfriend or man and wife who. No. What was Gone Bamboo? It was so awful.
You don't get any credit for reading Tony Bourdain's attempts at fiction. He wrote some.
No, Kitchen Confidential was wonderful.
Some very.
I don't think that. I think he was too immature a personality to really world build. It was too much of a childish fantasy fulfilled for him. He couldn't see beyond his own.
Kitchen Confidential, if I understand it, began as like an op-ed for a newspaper.
Well, he was paid talking about something he really
It was
understood.
so popular, but he was paid to expand it into a book, and it was an insider look into the kitchen business, and he had this sort of guerrilla reporting.
Well, he was telling it was as if it was his diary.
Mm-hmm. He's a big fan of like people like who's the gonzo journalist guy? Johnny
Hunter
Depp.
Thompson.
It's like that kind of. I'm the Hunter S. Thompson of the restaurant,
the culinary world. But he
found like a niche and he occupied it fully as like a skeletal person like that could occupy anything. But he was like this arch critic of pop culture and anything the masses were into. So I think he'd be horrified for you to say, I question
sometimes
you're going to be dressed like Shaq and Kazam and going to be dancing in people's faces for eternity.
No, but I think there was something in him that would have rolled with that. He wouldn't have spoke against it.
Oh, like I'm like a breakdancing genie now. I was this other thing in this other life, but now I'm wearing like this golden suit. And
is it like
why would you even say that, Maria? What would cause your mind to create that afterlife?
What if that's what you become?
If everyone becomes Shaq in Kazam?
What if the next world is a genie world?
What if the next world is like? What if Shaq's like everything pop cultural outside of basketball Shaq was up to in the 90s
Robin Williams
was a never-ending string of prediction. Was a never-ending stream of predictions about the afterlife, going from Kazam to Steel, in which he was inexplicably like a brilliant weapons manufacturer.
Have you seen Steel? Because I have.
Shaq Fu, where you played as a Shaq character, and it was a side-scroller, a 2D side-scroller, and you performed kung fu moves in like fantastical worlds. Maybe that is hell. Maybe that is the hell of Shaq. Maybe the only way to get out of the hell of Shaq and into the world of Kazam and Steel is to use kung fu moves to fight your way out. And you were going to explain the plot of Steel to me, which I don't want to hear. That's like explaining.
Actually, I wasn't, but I'm claiming some credibility for having seen it. I actually don't remember most of it.
I think
The production value was very low.
Shaq, I'm sure, is an amazing person, but the sell of him is like a brilliant scientist is like trying to sell Denise Richards as a brilliant scientist.
That was low-hanging fruit.
It's similar, isn't it, though?
Anyway, but
are we even alive? Are we here? Is this happening? Are we genies?
No, but I think the genie world would be a comforting world. To become a genie.
Because the genie outfits are like pajamas.
That's one perk, I suppose.
Hipsters should love dying then. They never have to adult again. It's just, they can just dress in like pajamas and like house slippers.
And dance
and make TikTok videos.
Lay around on pillows. Never leave the house. I mean, the genie is in the lamp. They don't leave the house. But what does the lamp even have to do with it?
We are all in lamps now. With the quarantine, even before quarantine, the quarantine accelerated something that was already happening. We've confined ourselves to these existences where we really don't have to leave our homes. We might as well be genies.
So what form of rubbing is going to release the essence?
Are we talking about Michael Jackson again? Was the essence Jesus juice?
I did not mean to go there.
If you rubba the lamp, does the Jesus juice come out?
How much Jesus juice?
Do you remember Michael Jackson's Ghost? It was like a music video for like a...
I was going to say we already discussed this.
No, but he appears as a giant spectral face in the music video, which we've been talking about.
Which one?
The music video for Ghost. I'm not talking about Thriller. After Thriller, he made another music video that was also supernatural, where he appears as a ghost. This music video has updated CGI because it's a bit later. I mean, it has CGI
no,
at all, I should say.
I haven't seen that. I'm not familiar with it.
Well, don't as soon as possible.
But how do we
don't listen to or watch anything Janet Jackson has ever done in her life.
How do we escape the shackles of the geniedom?
Most people would argue that they are not existing in a prison of geniedom. And
since we just made
you're
that
saying
up,
that you are, then you're at risk for being claimed by an institution. That's a very interesting case.
Okay, but what about the genie afterlife?
And court orders that read something to the effect of, cannot live by herself.
So you've never seen
Alan
a ghost?
Rickman's skull is up there like, this is so boring. Genies. I met Tony Bourdain. It was rubbish.
Go suck off Kevin Costner. Take that genie juice. Anyway, you've never seen a ghost.
I don't know.
So what are all these people talking about?
I wouldn't
because
know
I don't
if
think everyone is crazy.
I wouldn't know if I'd seen
hopeful.
If a ghost had revealed himself to me and I'd found a way to explain it away, then did I see it or did I not see it? I mean, it's like if someone never met their father, like they were born, their father ran out at them, but then they walk by their father at a Blockbuster. Did they see their father if they didn't know it was their father? Did it really happen?
You know, this could work for time travelers as well. How would you know that you had or hadn't seen a time traveler?
Like if Bruce Willis saw Joseph Gordon-Levitt with some horrifying makeup on, would he say, that's what I looked like when I was younger? Or would he say, oh, that looks like Joseph Gordon-Levitt with terrible makeup. I never looked anything like that.
I must be tired because I'm confused by the reference.
Wasn't there a sci-fi film where Joseph Gordon-Levitt played a younger version of Bruce Willis, and he wore like he was wearing makeup to look like Bruce Willis, and it didn't look like?
No, I don't remember this.
Well, you have some treats in your future.
My treat bag is going to be full by the end of the evening.
Nuggets.
Just dump them all.
You know what's in Ben Affleck's treat bag? Men. He smokes them. Rolls them up in moldy carpet, black mold. The black mold is just flavor. He smokes that shit.
Ambiguous heterosexuality.
Heteroflexibility is what they call it.
Let's end strong.
We're being judged by Alan Rickman's skull. Yes, let's end strong.
Peter North strong, Canadian strong.
I will break that skull like it's John Candy's and I just stole it from a graveyard.
That is the story we should have told tonight.
That is a story that isn't real. Remember Personal Best with Marielle Hemingway? Talk about nepotism. Someone who shouldn't have had that job. Was that her?
This is how we're ending the Halloween episode. Shannon, nobody even knows who the fuck Marielle Hemingway is. Half the people listening probably don't know who Ernest Hemingway is.
No discussion on planet Earth should begin with, end with, or be carried along by references to a film entitled Personal Best. Personal Best should be wished away by the genie
what about best
to the memory
of the
hole.
best?
It should
Let's get it back to center.
Personal Best should be locked in the Chamber of Treasures that was in the beginning of Aladdin, never to be opened for the next 1,000 years.
Okay, but I don't know. I remember I mean just the little man walking across the road, Shannon. We saw that, and you have explained it away.
Well, this is supposed to be about ghosts.
Yes, and well, any kind of paranormal activity. We're putting everything under the microscope right now, really, because it got away from ghosts.
That
a
was
long time
not
ago.
a ghost. That was like a gnome.
Yes, we saw a gnome, which apparently are prevalent in San Antonio. Who knew? There's a lot of sightings of the same kind of thing around here.
Maria, make sure you're a bit closer to the microphone when you say this crazy stuff. So do you think gnomes see ghosts?
Well,
it's a question I never see asked.
People see ghosts, why don't
aliens.
supernatural creatures
Do
see
aliens
ghosts?
have ghosts? Do they become ghosts? Do they see human ghosts?
Well, perhaps...
It's like, I feel like these are different lores, like Star Trek and like vampires that you're not supposed to mix up. Like,
No, I think everything is in the same realm.
Answer me that, John B. Wells.
We're these different monikers, these different ideas and lores, we humans have made up all sorts of crap around them, but I mean, whatever people saw that originally made them think these things,
so we've dishonored,
might have nothing to do with anything that we've said.
We've dishonored the believability and the reality of the supernatural, the ghost and hauntings with human bullshit. Some people would say that
it's like religion. Nobody really knows what we're seeing. Nobody really knows what it is. If there is something there, I mean, it's like the elephant and the blind man. The people in the dark, whatever that was. Everybody's feeling something different and making up something else about it.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting an impression of something possibly from another world, and we have no idea what's going on. We don't even understand our own brains very well and how they work. I mean,
people do this with everything, though. It's like with the politics, with the pandemic. It's like different
we
people.
need to explain things. We need to pin them down.
Different people come up with different stories when they're exposed to the same events, but this happens with everything. That's just a human being.
I think all you can say is, I saw this, and can it be corroborated by someone else? Did someone else see it too?
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be interesting.
How can the claims be proven? Like, and how would you prove them? Photographs? Video? That stuff is very easy to fake now.
There was recently a video, someone live streaming caught a dog man on video when they went out to smoke a cigarette.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been a lot of speculation on whether or not this was real.
So it's some sort of video artifact that the stream got excited about, and then it just became a meme.
Yeah, and there are things like this now, but again, our technology is advanced to the point where, everybody has a camera, everybody's streaming all the time, so we're seeing things, but we're also, anything can be created.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no way to know still.
Well, this will give infinite life to these stories because they can never be proven or disproven. So their stock is just set to keep rising. Stock of supernatural encounters and ghostly encounters.
Of dogmen.
And dogmen. Like you can say you've seen an elderly
Is that like a
farmer
nimbus?
in an elderly farmer in overalls who has been in our bathroom, a bathroom I use every single day, and I've never seen this person, but you claim to have seen it, and I can't say you didn't.
I've only seen him a handful of times. I've seen other things, but you know what I've noticed? The things that look human that I've seen personally, they all seem as if they're in a movie or something, and they're not. They always seem more interested in inanimate objects. The house. They don't seem to notice people around them. And the things that do notice people don't seem to notice anything else except the people. So I think they're two different things. Whatever's happening.
That sounds like they have like Asperger's. Like they just don't see people. They're more interested in objects and things.
Well, I mean, I think it's the energy. It's different. The things that we see as images of people who have passed on, and they're doing these repetitive actions, you know, things that maybe they did in life. It's almost like we're seeing a memory, and I think that's something. Whatever that is something different.
This is the,
it's not necessarily when you see poltergeist, what they describe as poltergeist type activity. Or I don't know, maybe the Catholic Church thinks it's demons, whatever that is.
The energy, the events that have been may not necessarily ghost, but just an event that's been captured. Usually people will say, "Oh, that's why you
something that's affecting."
You have more reports
the physical
of it. It's
world.
like you were saying earlier, and people say areas with high humidity. It's like something about the atmosphere in those places records those events more frequently and with more intensity.
Yes, and I mean. I think that whatever that is actually like a different it's a different species. It's a different energy. It's something else entirely. It's not human.
Or it's
never been human.
Or maybe it's just another level
Maybe
of science that we've had to explain. Maybe it's
a type of intelligence, but I don't think it's necessarily ever been physical.
Or it's not a kind of intelligence. Maybe it's like the aurora borealis.
Maybe. I don't know, but my experience with them, they do definitely have a kind of intelligence. It's just not anything like ours, and it's more childlike. It doesn't really have a language. It is like a different creature.
It's like the guy from Facts of Life. Like I said, if you have two different access points for different kinds of people, one is I want to believe these things, and one is I don't want to believe these things. Can I make my full statement?
No, I'm just so eager to defend it.
I've just demonstrated that it's equally possible to open either door. It's like an avenue that's available for each kind of person.
Well,
if you don't want to believe,
door?
You don't have to believe. If you want to believe, you can believe. The tools are available.
Well, I mean, it's not so much believing. I mean, if you want to believe,
I'd say that for anything. Vampires, gnomes.
I mean, if you take either one of those stances, it's a kind of bias where you're looking to confirm something. You have to just say,
maybe existence is
seeing?
bias. Maybe it's like people are just constantly in a state of confirming biases. Even food preferences, everything, clothing preferences. It's like what they think looks good, hairstyles they think look good.
Do you think ghosts long for the food they ate when they were alive?
You said they were interested in objects. Are they interested in the refrigerator? They try to open it. You said this was like Haystack Calhoun. He probably doesn't know whatever.
He's from telling my stories because people are going to think I'm crazy.
Like all ghosts, he's from the 19th century, so it would be like whatever. I guess they didn't have refrigerators.
I don't know.
Like an icebox.
There were some strange ghosts that were not the guy that I see. They were different, and they were playing one night with the perfume bottles and things on my dresser, and I got so tired of hearing it that I just got up and moved it to the bathroom.
You know who was not the guy? Lonzo Ball.
I have no idea who that is.
Got his ass traded to the Pelicans. Keep going.
It's a sports reference.
We've been talking about stuff that isn't real. I want to talk something else that is. I think these pumpkins are rotting. There's like gnats all over them.
No, those are fruit flies. They came in with some bananas a while back.
Is the pumpkin a fruit?
I I don't know. It's a squash, so it's a vegetable.
So then these can't be fruit flies.
Okay, we should wrap it up.
Oh, mummies. It's a Halloween episode. Do you think that's real? I read a news story.
Do I think that people have been mummified?
Okay, there was a recent news story out of Egypt that they'd uncovered a chamber filled with like 20 or 30 mummies. It was like one of the biggest Egyptological discoveries in the history of Egypt. Like the number of mummies that were discovered was like a record-breaking number.
Yes, I saw that news story, but I hadn't read about it yet.
Okay, so do you think ancient Egyptians were magical and they saw ghosts and?
Well, they definitely had incantations for everything. They believed in magic. They had spells.
Speaking of the spiritual events, do you think spiritual energy was tied to these tombs and that their discovery and release could release that dark energy into the world? Do you think I'm making a joke like the Mummy or Arnold Vosloo? Or
I knew Vosloo was going to come in.
Seriously, do you think there's something to that? I mean, these stories have been floating around for a while. Maybe someone had a real experience at one point, and that maybe a real experience lit a fire under like a creative type, and then they put pen to paper, and you got the stories.
People raided tombs and saw mummies, and there were a lot of stories written about that.
So what, you're now like the skeptic? The tables have turned, and I'm arguing hard in favor of this being real.
There's a good reason, though. I mean, people opened up these tombs and they became sick because there was bacteria.
The ghost energy.
Who knows? Who knows anything about any of this? I mean, maybe people see ghosts in Egypt too. Maybe these ghosts are very ancient. But I think there's a very logical explanation for the mummy myth.
So people have just made themselves sick with like bacteria from like an old ancient rotting body.
Mm-hmm. It makes sense.
So,
and that would scare a lot of people.
Was that
and
bacteria,
the people working on these digs, a lot of them were locals who were very superstitious.
So the bacteria was living in a sealed tomb for thousands of years? That's possible?
I don't know. I don't know enough about it. But I'm not a microbiologist, but that makes sense that something could have made them ill. Something in the tomb. Just even some of these tombs are underwater. I mean, standing water for that long, it's bound to make someone ill.
Well, the thing is,
even just silicosis. I mean, the dust.
Well, the thing is, Bill Pullman personally unearthed hundreds of mummies, and he's alive.
No, he didn't.
And Bill Paxton, the guy he was frequently mistaken for, is dead. So jokes, the mummies have turned.
Bill Paxton has nothing to do with mummies. He does have something to do with the Titanic, so maybe the ghosts of the Titanic have attacked him. Maybe the ghost of Leonardo DiCaprio's career has come after him.
So you think it's like some sort of late Binns that was acting on his heart, like the Binns. Like he went down.
He came up too fast.
He was taken down by James Cameron to see the ruins of the Titanic, but he died of a heart condition a few years later.
It would be his ruination.
Yes, and there would be no
There would be no coming back. No. The heart of the ocean got him.
He died of like a heart attack. He had heart issues. So there might be something. There's absolutely nothing to it. Right, we already had an episode where we joked about Bill Paxton being like a Grim Reaper, like was coming, like his job. Whereas Tony Bourdain's assigned job was to be like a rapping genie for some. Bill Paxton, it was like a Grim Reaper.
He would be a beautiful rapping genie. He would be like David Wallace saying, like, skeletons fucking having a fuck.
That exact image of Tony Bourdain rapping in like golden, like 90s hip hop garb is what haunts Asia Argento's every night. We should just stop the podcast here. That's it.
Happy Halloween.
Did you want to get one last dig in at the dead man?
Which one?
Bourdain.
Let's was going to say Arnold Vosloo. He might as well be dead.
That's a wrap. It's a mummy joke.